If there was one word that came to my mind after watching episode 5 of Mushoku Tensei Season 2, it would be the word magical. And it really was quite a journey throughout this episode. There is so much world building, there is just so much character development, characterization, and just subtle little things here and there between the characters that really, if you want to dive into it, there's just so much depth to it. And we even got an opening and ending song. And obviously, I want to start off with talking about the opening song because legitimately it is incredible. And I'm going to talk about why they probably decided to put an opening ending song for season 2, even though we're already 5, technically 6 episodes deep so far into season 2. And it's like, why now of all times when Mushoku Tensei's never really technically had an opening song slash a full dedicated ending song most of the time. So let's get into it. So let's just look at the overall tone of what the opening showcases. It has a bird cage, which bird cages and birds, it's a very simple meaning, but it usually means like someone imprisoned, locked up, so to speak. Someone's worldview is very small, and that outside the birdcage, there's just so much more to explore. And in this case, the opening visual obviously is the birdcage opened up, which basically means that something has technically been let free. We don't know what it is, but something. It could be a character, it could be just a symbolic message of emotion, it could be a variety of things. But the opening song starting off with a birdcage opening up, like I said, is very symbolic of something being let out and being free, being themselves, so to speak. And then as it continues to go on, you get a visual of this woman that is laying on a bed. Now, we don't get to actually see their face or anything like that, but the way the scene, is depicted, it depicts that this woman is obviously probably affiliated with the birdcage to some degree, freedom, etc. And then we get this, flower scene, and then we get this scene where there is a hand that we can clearly see traveling up the bed. It looks like a very intimate moment, and everything about this scene implies, like, obviously a very intimate moment between two individuals. Now, once again, we still don't know who this is because obviously it's long hair, it's an unidentified individual, and we don't get to see their face at all. But there's clearly a moment of passion between the two characters that is going on in this beginning sequence of the opening song. And once again, people might instantly think, oh, this is, Sylphie, because obviously the hair is like a similar tone, but it probably isn't because obviously longer hair. So that's one that you could just throw aside. But then on top of that, you have this whole scene to where when he finally grabs the hand, you have it to where it disappears. So what the dream sequence obviously was letting us know was that it was Rudy grabbing this woman's hand, trying to reach out, so to speak, trying to move on from his trauma. As soon as it was in reach, it disappeared, and that was it. And it was just a dream, so to speak. So when we look at that sequence of events, we could assume that maybe this individual is Eris. That's what we could assume. We could assume that even though it's obviously, white hair on the female character, maybe Rudy is just having a dream about Eris, showcasing the overall trauma and PTSD of just, like, everything that he's been experiencing and what he's going to be going through. There's a lot of ways to get into this, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I do really enjoy the way this opening sequence starts off. And then as it continues on and he awakens from his dream, you have this beautiful shot of him just looking out, looking up. You see the window and all that, very reminiscent of, how season 1 was with its ending visuals. And then the title of the series, opens up. It's a really good beginning portion of the opening, kind of getting the message across of, like, what season 2 is really going to be about. One of the big hurdles that Rudy has to overcome is literally his trauma of being left behind, isolated, lonely, not having anyone. Anytime he feels like he's finally building a bond or a connection, it just disappears within his grasp. And it's a perfect representation, just those few, like, 5 to 8 seconds really showcasing that. It's beautiful. But as it continues on, you just, once again, you get to see the early morning of Rudy walking to the Magic Academy, basically depicting what his normal routine is every single day he, gets up to go and, be at the academy. You just, like, you see how it's very lonely, he's by himself, he's overlooking this city and all that, he's a lot older, but even despite all that, there is some magic in the air. It's not all darkness, so to speak. There is some things that bring light into his life. life, or finding a new light in his life, moving on past the trauma. It's, like I said, a very good depiction. And then this overall sequence basically showcases an action scene from Soul and all that, and how, we get to see how he was when Rudy was traveling with him. And this entire sequence is basically memories. The journey that Rudy has been through throughout Season 1 and so far throughout Season 2. This is a great reusage of assets and stuff, just showcasing literally different characters that we're going to be introduced to and all that, the main group of characters throughout Season 2, but I love the spiral staircase as, he's continuing to go up, he's journeying and all that, and you see the memories throughout the portraits. It is legitimately an amazingly well done moment, and then also you saw that bird as well, the bird flew off too, once again showcasing freedom, and the color probably can be very significant as well since it was red. Just like I said, there is a lot of care and attention to detail that is poured into this, and I'm not gonna spoil and dive too heavily deep into certain elements, but legitimately there is a lot that you can take away from this that really just showcases like what Rudy's going through, what he's going to go through, but also you get to even see the the PTSD here. Like, look at this closely. If you look closely in the background here, you see eyes, and obviously this is the moment where the dragon god himself killed Rudy, like at the end of Season 1. You could literally see his dragon eyes, you see the lifeless eyes of Rudy right here, you could see all of it. That clearly this is depicting like his trauma, so to speak, while he's alone and all that, and you can see in his isolation, another bird comes down, it's green, a different symbolic message, and then you see people that's entering into his life, and down this hallway and all that through the light, he finally finds something that brings him joy in his life, happiness, so to speak. And also that, blank canvas that appeared could also be a representation maybe of the man god as well. But once again, this is another dream sequence. You see, once again, he wakes up from another dream, but he's a little bit happier, and things seem to be a little bit brighter despite everything. And also now he's not necessarily waking up in a bed, he's waking up on top of like a wagon. So yeah, there's like multi-layers to this, there's so much more depth than that, but like legitimately, this is an incredible opening song, and it stuns me. It really stuns me, just the care and attention to detail. Now, before I get into anything else, let's actually talk about the ending song, because the ending song is just as important, because it also depicts the progress of time. Just as how the opening was showcasing that, Rudy's trauma, what he's going through, trying to find a new path, new happiness in life and purpose, this ending song kind of focuses on a different perspective. You can kind of view this ending song through Fitz or Sylphie's perspective on how she views Rudy, and how people potentially view Rudy, and that he isn't necessarily completely alone as he thinks he is. There is people beside him that do care for him. This is a different perspective, and I love that. It's like you could look at this entire ending song as Sylphie's perspective, like in the childhood memories, when she was hanging out with Rudy, learning magic and stuff. It's very beautiful and excellent. And you see in this moment, it's flashing forward to how they're probably spending time together. For instance, Sylphie and Rudy are spending time together at the Magic Academy, and like even though it's clear that Rudy doesn't remember Sylphie, or doesn't know that Fitz is Sylphie, I mean the episode kind of just currently plays that out like that. Pretty much, it's clear that Sylphie knows who Rudy is. And you get to see just the bond of them spending time together, and that Sylphie legitimately is having a wonderful time. She's very happy to spend these cherished moments with him, and it's just this very expression of the ending song kind of depicts that. But as it continues on, though, we get to see another side. You see Sylphie, she's next to the princess right here, and she's with her own friend group, while you see Rudy walking through a hallway, and Rudy has his own friend group. And if you look very closely at what this scene depicts, it basically says that Sylphie isn't a part of this group. Sylphie is not a part of Rudy's active life. At the very least, this is how she views it, because this ending song is obviously from her perspective of how she views Rudy and how she feels about herself in terms of, where she stands with Rudy at this point in time. It's a very interesting sequence of events, just showcasing she also feels very isolated, lonely, and she feels very melancholy, so to speak. I love these little scenes, showcasing like her moments when she's by herself, when she's not attending to the princess, when she doesn't have the glasses on with the persona of Fitz. She is very, very lonely, and she really does wish that Rudy would obviously remember her. And in her comfort when she goes to sleep at night, she dreams of those times to where Rudy and her were studying magic, discovering things, and having a very good time on that hilltop with that tree. And then she also sees, Rudy as as a man now. He's no longer a young little kid anymore. He's much, much more older than he once was. It's a legitimately good sequence right here, just showcasing that even though Rudy has changed, it feels like she hasn't. Because that scene where she was next to the tree kind of makes her feel like maybe she hasn't changed. She's the same person she once was. There's so many layers to this ending song. I love it. I absolutely just love everything about it. So yeah, just Mushoku Tensei really outdid itself. I really think that the animators that worked on this, they knew what they were doing. They were doing a really good job with it, and they got the message across without even words, without actually voice acting, just the music and the imagery. It is just a job well done. It tells a story in of itself, and not many ending song and opening songs could really do this, because most of the time it's just a collage of action moments, etc. Because, let's be honest here, when it comes to stuff like this, it's much easier as probably an animator and as a studio when you're just trying to make an ending and opening song to just straight up, like, have, like, visuals that are just action-heavy to get people interested to listen to the song, but that's about it. Now, with all that out of the way, let's actually talk about the contents within the episode besides the opening and ending song. We need to talk about just Rudy and Elena getting basically an education at this university, and what we learn from this sequence of events before Rudy has a brief little mock battle with Sylphie within the episode. Pretty much we learn that, the academy has different groups of individuals. For instance, it can have regular students, and it can have the special class students, and the special class students is someone like Rudy that gets basically tuition paid for. He's able to come in and do anything he wants and all that. If he just wants to be a researcher, so to speak, he can. He's not necessarily fully enrolled, like he's not having to attend class every single day. He can do whatever he wants, so to speak. It basically shows that, he has special privileges in comparison to normal students. But the big thing we learn about, though, throughout this entire sequence is that it's not just a school about teaching magic. One big detail that we learn is that even though it doesn't technically have, medical knowledge, so to speak, of learning how to cure, mental illness or whatever, the school does teach other things, like stuff like probably swordsmanship. It teaches stuff probably how to, be a blacksmith or something. It does have, standard professions as well that you can learn at this university. It's not necessarily just magic that you have to learn. That's what we get with some of these details, which is very big in the world building perspective, because it gives us multi-layers on something. For one, it lets us know that these, witches and wizards and all that, the people that can use magic, they don't look down upon those that probably are not good with magic. That is a big detail here, because usually in fantasy stories, when you have like a magic academy or anything like that, typically the mages get very prideful, and they're like, oh, I'm better than you, because I can use magic and all that. That's kind of how they usually feel, and that's usually typical storylines go that direction. But it's clear that this academy, at least the higher ups, don't feel that way, because they're even teaching people that are probably not wanting to learn magic other different professions, showcasing that it doesn't matter, that they just want you to be here. They want you to learn. It's literally an academy/university for learning itself, and it's a very interesting perspective on the world building, because there isn't anyone going after non-magic users, etc. Now, getting into the mock battle that we got with this episode, we get this brief little scene where we see Sylphie pull out the wand, and remember, this is the wand that Rudy gave her, but obviously there could be duplicates, things that look very similar, but before, anything was really coming to conclusive, Rudy got distracted because he had to fight, but he was realizing that that wand did look like something very similar from his past, and I like the demon eye usage, showcasing, what Rudy got in Season 1, and, he counters with Disturb Magic, which is what we saw from the Dragon God at the end of Season 1, showcasing that Rudy has learned a few tricks, new tricks, so to speak. He's able to disturb magic silently, which completely will destroy a mage, because you gotta imagine a mage that uses a lot of magic and wants to overcome individuals, if another mage comes in, it's like Disturb Magic, you're not going to be able to do anything, because mages usually just can't fight with a sword, etc. So, it's definitely a huge weakness to mages, and Rudy showcases his overall talent and skill, and instantly disarms Sylphie in this moment. And regardless if she was going serious or not, we can assume she's not, it doesn't change the fact that Rudy demonstrated a lot of skill there, that he is capable of completely demolishing a mage because of Disturb Magic. So, there, once again, is more world building there with just Rudy's overall potential, but also other mages can learn this, because we do know that if Rudy can learn it, it's clear that Sylphie probably can learn it as well, because she obviously knows silent spellcasting. So, everything besides that, though, we gotta move into this segment. Okay, so this episode, it wouldn't be Mushoku Tensei if it didn't have some vulgar moments. I mean, let's be honest here. And Rudy having this brief little conversation with Elena, with, oh, just, like, I guess, shorten your skirt and wear, I guess, stockings. Yes, this scene is hilarious. Yes, it is perverted to a degree, but there is a lot of things to take away from this, and I guess this is a perfect segue to really talk about her character, especially what this episode, presented. It's clear with the brief travels that Rudy and Elena had to get to the Magic Academy that they became a lot more bonded, so to speak, because this conversation that Rudy has with her showcases how close they've gotten in the short time frame, because even though it's not directly stated how long the journey was, so to speak, within the anime, we do know that there's travel time. We saw this throughout, season 1, with, traveling to city. There's a lot of months and weeks that could pass, even a year, so to speak. It's not necessarily like fast traveling in a game. Legitimately, it takes a long time to journey from one place to another. And so, clearly, these two got to spend a lot of time together, and clearly Rudy isn't able to have any intimate moments with Elena because, he has ED. And so he got to see her for different reasons and perspective and all that and understand her as a person, and she obviously did as well. And him helping her out and all that in this way, even though it's funny, it showcases how much they have grown closer as individuals. But also, let's get a little bit deeper. So, Elena, it is revealed that she has a curse. It's very quick, it's at the beginning of the episode, but we come to find out the reason why she's such a hound dog, why she's always getting railed, so to speak, is because she has a curse that pretty much forces her. So that is the reason why she is like she is. It's because she has a curse, and if she doesn't, be a hound dog, she is going to die. So yeah, that is what the episode presents, and it explains a lot of her reasoning, makes her a little bit more sympathetic, and it's clear that, with her traveling with Rudy, technically if they were in a bad situation, he wouldn't even be able to help her. She would die. So there's a lot to really take away from this episode. So anyways, let's continue onward. So another big thing we get from this episode, we get introduced to this special class. We get, reminded of some original characters that we already saw. Zenova, my boy. I love him, man. I love Zenova. I love him, man. I love Zenova so much. And just seeing his reaction, he's like, oh. And then he's just so shocked, and he's like, Shisha! He's just running. I love it, man. I love Zenova. He's such a good character. And seeing him literally tackle Rudy and then lift him up is just great. Because let's remind everybody about Zenova as a character. This is Zenova, the decapitating prince. He was someone that was, accused, or he was known for accidentally killing his younger sibling because he was just so strong. He's a blessed child. He has immense strength. And so, basically, seeing him pick up Rudy like this, it's very scary, and that's why Rudy says it's scary, because it's like one wrong move from Zenova, and Rudy can be split in half. That is how strong this man is. And so, I really, really love this scene. I love his character and all that. There's just having him back, I love it. I love his character. But, anyways, besides that, we also get introduced to, Cat Girl and Dog Girl. Clearly that they are wanting a pecking order, so to speak. And they're obviously related to the Doldia tribe that we met in Season 1 when, Eris, Rudy and Ruijerd went to the town with a bunch of different, I guess just, the Doldia tribe and saving the kids and all that. These individuals that we meet are royalty of that place that are attending the Magic Academy. So there's, like I said, there's a lot to take away from this too when it comes to that. Now, anyways, we also get introduced to Cliff, which I think Cliff is a big character that, once again, I said when I made a video a few days ago, that Cliff, he was already introduced with an OVA that came out for Mushoku Tensei at the end of Season 1, but some might not remember him, but clearly, this episode reminds you that, yes, he met Eris and all that, and, she talked about Rudy a lot, and he clearly has a little bit of an attitude towards Rudy, because Rudy was apparently a genius according to Eris, while, Cliff was an individual that, clearly assumes he's a genius, and he feels like attacked, so to speak, like his pride is attacked, because Rudy might be even better than him. So that's definitely what the conversation kind of gives off. Now, anyways, with all that, we also move into the library. We get to see, Rudy get to come face to face with Fitz or Sylphie again, and it's basically, a brief moment to kind of showcase that, they're going to be able to spend a little bit more time together, potentially researching the displacement incident, and also, Sylphie gives Rudy information, like, oh, look up the teleportation labyrinth book or whatever, and it might give you some details or whatever. So there is a lot of things being set up with this segment too. Just, yeah, there's back-to-back stuff. I mean, we get, one of Rudy's cousins that are introduced as well, Luke, that, kind of, introduces himself and all that. So yeah, and then we have this scene at the end where, Sylphie stands up for Rudy, and what this kind of showcases is the growth of Sylphie, which I think is interesting because the ending song depicts, Sylphie thinking she hasn't grown as a person. She's the same little girl she was when she was like 6 or 5, but clearly this scene depicts a different matter. That if this was the Sylphie from when she was a kid, she wouldn't be standing here before individuals that are potentially bullying another, she would just sit back, probably be very scared. That she would just let it happen. But the fact that she's here and saving Rudy showcases her growth as an individual. She has a little bit more courage and belief in herself, even if she doesn't fully believe in herself. There is a little bit more belief there, at least when it comes to Rudy, that she was able to stand up and protect him to some degree. So it does show growth and development of her character. But, yeah, that is the episode. It's a very, very long episode. There's a lot of tension here, like intimate tension between these two characters. I mean, Rudy being Rudy, not knowing that, Sylphie is a girl, but thinks, it's Fitz as a dude. Just, yeah, good episode. I love it. I went very long on this video. Like, I talked a lot, but there was a lot to really discuss. I'm gonna leave it at that, though. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.